I think it's safe to say at this point in time that most fans have already abandoned the Star Wars franchise and want nothing to do with Lucasfilm, want nothing to do with anything Disney related to Star Wars, as it excludes anything related to George Lucas's philosophy and what the franchise stands for, and anything that connects to the originals, to the prequels, and just the general overall format of Star Wars, diminishing with each and every movie and TV show releasing over time. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, this is a director by name that I think everyone knows about at this point. She is really wreaking havoc over at Lucasfilm and has really caused much of the drama related to the Rey Star Wars movie featuring Daisy Ridley. I've said this plenty of times. They might as well call this movie Star Wars Episode 10. It's a continuation of The Rise of Skywalker. It's featuring a main sequel trilogy character, so why not? But they're refusing to do that anyway, and it really is a joke, to be honest. This movie's not going to do well at the box office. We all know it. They know it. It's all about pushing an ideology, and that's what Disney's all about. Now, when it all boils down to Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, after getting fired from several projects over at Lucasfilm, we've been talking about this, and this comes all in the wake of the fan backlash and Bob Iger's cost-cutting measures that have been really deeply impacting all divisions, not just limited to Lucasfilm. But what's interesting about all of this further has a lot to do with how Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is already taking action against Disney as a result of a lot of drama happening behind the scenes between herself, Kathleen Kennedy, and yes, even Bob Iger and the rest of the higher-ups over at Disney. Now, specifically, with Disney dealing with the ongoing backlash for the Rey Star Wars movie from producer Kathleen Kennedy, after director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy was fired and removed from several Star Wars projects, Sharmeen recently took action against Disney for making these decisions that she believes was completely unfair. As it turns out, after Sharmeen was fired from 2 Star Wars movies and 2 Star Wars shows, leaving her only with the Rey movie, which also in turn resulted in her payout getting cut down for the Rey Star Wars film, she recently took a form of legal action against Disney where she is now already gathering a way to sue Disney for improperly removing her from other projects that she reportedly had signed on into her contract before the Rey movie drama even started. Now, Sharmeen is already warning Disney of gathering a legal team and a legal stance to fight Disney for wrongfully removing her from these projects that were going to provide her a long career over at Lucasfilm for roughly 7 years. This all fell apart due to Sharmeen actually over-demanding a pay increase after Daisy Ridley received a bump in pay by $6 million for the Rey Star Wars film, where she received no pay increase. That created the entire issue just for starters. Bob Iger handed the demands to fire and remove Sharmeen from those projects that was finalized by Kathleen Kennedy, which in turn created a grudge between the two over at Lucasfilm. Between Sharmeen getting removed from the Acolyte Season 2, the first Jedi movie by James Mangold, and Shawn Levy's Star Wars film, as well as a Star Wars series that would focus on the New Jedi Order as a lead-up to the Rey film, matters only got worse at Lucasfilm after her directing role, payout, was cut back by Bob Iger via his cost-cutting measure for all divisions over at Disney, including Lucasfilm. This now created a serious division over at Lucasfilm between many different employees and creators, as Disney, of course, is running into a brick wall with Sharmeen, how she is already beginning to lawyer up against Disney, pulling this all at last minute, and is already blaming them that they made these choices based on fan backlash from a small minority, and is also already beginning to play the race card to gain leverage. Shockingly, this is scaring Disney and putting them into panic mode as they can't afford any more conflicts and distractions behind the scenes, especially for Star Wars productions. And though Sharmeen remains on the Rey movie as a director, she is already warning Disney that she will walk off this project if they don't make things right. Disney higher-ups are already looking for a replacement, as they, of course, are involved in this issue if there comes a point where they can't handle the drama anymore with Sharmeen for the Rey film. All 4 of those projects mentioned before that she was removed and fired from was going to provide Sharmeen around $20 million in total for her payout when all was said and done. She is also warning them that she will sue them if the higher-ups at Disney don't stick to what they agreed for her initial payout for the Rey Star Wars film. Already discussions of a Rey trilogy are happening, and they have already excluded Sharmeen from working on the sequels if Bob Iger decides to greenlight those projects, which he is going to make the decision if it is to become a trilogy by the middle of this year. The Rey Star Wars film, apart from Sharmeen's legal warnings and early plans to sue them, are just the beginning, as writer Stephen Knight is already dealing with creative differences with Disney for the film and is revising his current draft that will be officially sent in by the beginning of March. So here's the other problem, guys. Let me just pause here quick. The other problem about this is that this was really all started because of Sharmeen's shenanigans, alright? She made an agreement with Disney about what her payout was going to be like for the Rey film. She didn't like these last-minute negotiations that Daisy Ridley had made with the Disney higher-ups to bump her payout to roughly $12 million for the movie. That bothered Sharmeen at the very beginning. That led her to basically making these negotiations and demands that were considered unrealistic in the eyes of Bob Iger for The Acolyte Season 2, for the Shawn Levy film, James Mangold's movie, as well as the new Star Wars series that would focus on the new Jedi Order to kind of connect or serve as a prequel to the Rey film. All 4 of those projects, she was being very overly demanding, really kind of forcing Disney to up her payout, that were really just unrealistic, at least to Bob Iger's point of view, because he's all about cost cutting right now, right? Bob Iger is obsessed with his cost cutting plan, alright? Or his cost containment plan, as he likes to call it. And it's not just limited to Lucasfilm, as I said before. This is happening to Pixar, it's happening to Walt Disney Animation Studios. There are firings across the board. Multiple, employee sections. It doesn't matter if it's the corporate ladder, or the Disney parks, or those in connection to the film industry. Disney is getting impacted everywhere, and it's not looking good for this year, let alone for 2025. So I think that Sharmeen is way over her head. I think that she's only putting herself into a bigger hole at this point, and it's going to go absolutely nowhere. You know how many times people tried to sue Disney and where it all went? There's been very few success stories out of that, and it's not looking good at all in this area. So what's interesting about this further, guys, is that I know that Disney's really putting themselves into a very dark place, and rightfully so. They deserve everything that they are getting with all of their agendas that they have pushed into Star Wars, into Marvel, and it's really biting them in return. It truly is. Whether it's from the general public, or whether it's from, everyone on the inside eventually eating each other, which is happening now between Sharmeen and Kathleen Kennedy having a grudge against each other, because Kathleen Kennedy, in Sharmeen's point of view, we talked about this days ago, the conflict was that Sharmeen felt that Kathy did not stick up for her enough, did not defend her enough to stay on those projects before she was fired from them. So overall, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.